Theo.
Hi, everyone. I'm Theo Rosenswag. I, like Mark, was also in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering, but I worked more on carbon reductions. I did my internship with Nike, and I am back with Nike right now in their supply chain innovation team. Started 2 weeks ago, having a blast so far.
Excellent. Thank you all. Okay, so let's talk about internships. Before I do that, though, let me do a quick overview of the program. There's the pictures. Thank you. One more slide, Emma. There we go. Let's talk about the program really quick before I hand it off to Patty to talk about internships. So the LGO program, Leaders for Global Operations, is a 2-year dual degree program. You will get an MBA from the Sloan School of Management. You'll also get an MS in Engineering from the department that you choose to do your master's in. What's great about the program is that it, unlike typical dual degree program, you're actually part of LGO. You are part of the program in and of itself. You won't be taking business classes separately and then taking engineering classes separately. We have an integrated program that we've designed. That is the LGO program, sorry. As you see from our logo, it's important to note we're at the intersection of obviously the School of Engineering, also the Sloan School of Management, but most important, the third one is industry partners. We have 20 plus industry partners that we work with. The idea here is that we really want to be a program that you roll up your sleeves and get the work done. And the industry partners are an amazing part of that. One of the great, amazing things of the industry partners that we have is obviously they supply the internships, which we'll be talking about a lot today. And the internships are amazing. They are literally roll up your sleeves, 6 months at the companies getting, I used to always say solving problems, but it's really more than just solving problems. You're looking at opportunities, you're optimizing systems. It's applied real world work that you can do. And you are literally learning things in the classroom and then applying them in the real world in your internships later on. So it's a great program to have you with the intersection of business, engineering, and industry partners. Another great part of the industry partners, aside from their supplying 6-month internships, they also help fund the program, which is great. So every admitted student will get a fellowship of around 50 to 60% of the tuition. And then also a great thing, it's not required, it's not stated, you're not expected to work at the industry partners after graduation at all, nor do they expect it. But it creates amazing network opportunities when you're at these partners, when you're integrated with the partners so much. We do see some of the graduates go to these industry partners after for employment. And again, not required, not expected, but there's just so many natural opportunities to interact with these companies. So we're real proud and excited to have the partner companies with us. With that, I want to hand it off to Patty to talk about the internship process. Before I do, really quick, Patty, actually, Emma's typing the answer now. And great job, participants, on using the Q&A box so far. We are recording and it will be sent out. Okay, so with that, Patty, let's talk about internships.
Sure. So just to build what Dominic said, all of the LGO internships are conducted at our industry partners, and we will share, if you haven't seen on our website, a list of who those are with their logos a little bit later in this slide deck, so you can see kind of the range of industries and opportunities here. And as Dominic also mentioned, these are really putting the work into action. I think they really embody the MIT logo of men's and monist, of mind and hand, and together. So they're embedded in company sites and really putting everything into action. They are also the basis for the master's thesis that is a requirement for all LGO students for the combination of their 2 degrees. So know that industry action really comes into an academic lens following the internship and builds along the way as well. Emma, do you want to switch to the next slide? Okay, so kind of high level timeline of the internship. In the first summer of the program, as a 2-year program, it is a full 24-month program. We have an early June start each year to the cohort, and students are introduced to all of our industry partners over the course of the summer so that they can get to know those opportunities and who's involved. And then in the first fall, there is, focus on embedding in with the other MBA cohorts and the engineering students as well. They start to learn more of the detailed opportunities, both for 2 different timelines of internships. The internship takes place over 2 semesters, either one fall and a summer, or the second fall and the summer is the most common timeline. We call that our June start internship timeline. We have an earlier timeline also, which a smaller portion of the class completes, which is your first spring semester plus the second summer semester, calling those the Feb start internships. And then following the internship period over these 2 semesters, either starting in February or June, you have 1 to 2 semesters back on campus for continued coursework, co-curriculars that are on campus, and writing the thesis that's based on the internship experience. So that's very high level kind of when it takes place throughout the LGO program experience. And then we can talk about the process a little bit here and what we look for. Emma, if you want to swap to the next one. There we go. So as mentioned before, all of the internship projects are with our industry partners, with very rare exceptions. We have students that are involved in the process of soliciting and sharing about kind of the content that is eventually offered in the projects. Primarily, the internships are created based on the business needs of the industry partners, but they take student interests into account, because during the first summer, while students are learning about the partner company opportunities, they are also kind of thinking on their own interests. What would they like to see ideally as an offering from any number of the partners? And we share that back. We have student liaisons that are paired up, 1 student for every company, to kind of work with them in sharing the class interest, giving feedback about the potential project. So there's a lot that we facilitate as a back and forth, building from those partner business needs. As mentioned before, the internship is the basis of the dual degree master's thesis. We academically need to make sure there's content that's appropriate for your individual engineering department that you apply to LGO into. So projects that we receive from partners are all reviewed and deemed appropriate for different departments, and a subset would be available for you in a given partner, in a given discipline, engineering discipline, to interview for, so we can ensure that the future content is aligned appropriately. Each intern has 2 faculty advisors for the duration of the internship, and through the time their thesis is submitted, 1 from the School of Management and 1 from the School of Engineering in the department that they are enrolled in. So those faculty provide guidance on the internship experience, set expectations for the building content and the final content of the thesis document themselves. Some engineering departments assign the faculty who you would be working with at the time of admissions, while others determine the best fit from their faculty once the internship project is matched and the content is defined. So it can work differently in different engineering disciplines that participant. We have a choice of projects. Generally, partners provide more than the total number that are needed. So for example, with this class of alumni that recent grads, we had close to a quarter more of buffer projects, so that there's some choice in this set is appropriate for my department, and I'll interview for this subset of them to have some flexibility in what the eventual content may be. Let's see, while the projects are not custom designed for student interest, we work with the student liaisons and the partners to provide these options. And usually students interview for and rank or do a scored preference to indicate their interests. And students get, I think usually there's between 8 and 10 at least projects kind of considered and ranked by students, and most students get one of their set of top choices. we use an algorithm based on the Gale-Shapley to take into account both the partner and the student interest, and is a two-way matching system similar to the hospital and residency matching system. So this is a process we've used for many years that takes both those parties into account and creates a final match for everybody of their internship. Most projects come through what we call the open market. This is what I've primarily been describing, where you can sign up to interview for any subset that are deemed appropriate for your department, and then utilize the Gale-Shapley based matching system to be paired and finalized with a project. There are a couple departments of the engineering school that we utilize what we call a closed market system. Primarily, this is for students enroll in the aeronautics and astronautics department, the nuclear science engineering and chemical engineering departments, where it's a more kind of narrow content focus that will be required. And for students in those departments, we facilitate a little bit more of a possible directed internship content, sharing the research interests of the student and resume to see if partners can find in advance something a little bit more specified for the appropriate content for those students. So depending on the engineering department that you're considering applying into, it may be either of those modes of obtaining the internship, while most are in that open market system. Let's see. And I think that is most of the details. I think most students, just in terms of how would you know which of these two different timelines described earlier, we have about 70% or more of the class that's in the June start timeline. So, you know, it's definitely a smaller portion of class that does the Feb starts. So in planning for, you know, when would I be away from MIT, as most of the projects are at company sites around most the domestic US, although we have occasionally some international outside of the US projects. Most students are in that second June of their enrollment through December of their second year that they're on. I think that's primarily what we wanted to share, of kind of details of the process, but can help with more of the Q&A. And I guess before we go to the kind of panelist questions, thanks, Emma, for changing that over to share. This is our current set of partners. It's worth kind of, if you're not familiar with any of the companies that appear here, I think some are obvious logos, maybe one that doesn't have a name that may not. That blue box around a white feather is Blue Origin. We had 3 partners I'll highlight join just last year, which were Stanley Black & Decker, Waymo, and Northrop Grumman are kind of our newest set, but this is the current set at this time that we would expect, although there are changes here and there, so may have some evolution by the time you're considering applying and enrolling too. All right.
Thanks, Patty. We're getting a lot of questions. One quick thing I wanted to mention, sorry, folks, if you do have specific questions about your individual candidacy, please email lgo@mit.edu with your questions. And if you have questions about internships, that's where we want to use the Q&A box. One thing to note, we're getting a lot of questions about the Feb start time, June start time. Do the alum want to talk about, I know I'm throwing a wrench into the plans that we literally just came up with, but can the alum come on and talk about their specific internships, and if it was a June start time, if it was a Feb start time, and if you saw any differences? There's been some questions about the differences. There are none, but would you alum mind talking about your start times?
Yeah, I guess I could start. So my name's Mark. I did Boeing. I was matched with Boeing and for June start. But I actually asked this question a lot when I was also applying whether to do Feb start or June start's better. And it kind of just depends on your priorities. So some people prioritize the projects, some people prioritize the partner companies, some people prioritize their life, whether they're having kids and stuff. I personally wanted to take some classes in the spring, so I chose to delay to do a June start because I was switching careers and stuff, and so I wanted to maybe one more semester of like some analytics courses at MIT before starting an internship. So that's kind of how I decided between June start and Feb start.
Thanks, Mark. Reimer, Theo, do you have any input? I have plenty of other questions to get to, trust me.
I did a Feb Start internship, and it was nice because it gave me more time to write my thesis and go through more editing with my advisors, which proved to be valuable. I think the thesis came out better because it went through multiple, not rushed rounds of editing. And I think I don't know, there are multiple reasons why it was good, but also kind of what Mark said, where it just fit in with my life really well and where my lease was at. And so, some people it's convenient to do June, and some people it's convenient to do February. And so it gives you a little autonomy there.
Actually, good lead in, Theo, to the next number of questions that I wanted to answer live. A lot of questions about families and arrangements for moving. You mentioned your lease, Theo. That's a good thing. Can you all talk about sort of the non-school factors in the internship process? Did you have families? Did they come with? Did they not come with? Did they stay here? Could you jump into that?
I think I can speak to that. So I had a kid, like my child was born in between the LGO summer and the core semester. So I did not consider a Feb Start internship because, a newborn baby. So I wanted to do June start. And it was also very important for me to not move because I didn't want to move my family cross country with at that point, maybe like 7-month-old or 8-month-old. So I really focus on what are internships where I don't have to move, that are really interesting, and I only looked at June start, and that worked out. But it worked out really well for me. So yeah, I think we had a couple with one more student who also had a child like 3 weeks after my son was born, and he went with the same approach, and it worked well. We both didn't move and found really good internships. We actually both joined the partner companies afterwards.
Thanks, Reimer.
Just a quick comment on staying local. There are not a large number. I mean, there's a strategy, but there's not a guarantee that there will be a project that does not allow you to move. You should come into the program planning to relocate for the 6 months. And there was a student in their class that didn't want to relocate, turned out, relocated, and joined that company at that location down in South Carolina. So being open is important as you're evaluating the opportunities.
And maybe quick two notes. I basically just traveled a lot. I kind of semi-relocated with a lot of travel. But there are there's the LGO cohort is, I would say, tight enough to then, if there is one person who really can't move and really wants to, or specifically really wants only one internship because it's like the perfect fit, that's probably different from year to year, but there is enough of a spirit where people might not prioritize that internship that someone else really wants or needs. So that is nice.
I see a lot of questions in the chat about kind of like flexible leasing, I guess, and on-campus opportunities for housing.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that MIT does have graduate dorms, and I say dorms in quotations because it's really just an apartment building or a set of apartment buildings, and they do more flexible leasing. So I was able to stay in the dorm that's closest to Sloan for 6 months and then get out of my lease easily. But they also facilitate subleasing. So there are options for less than 12 months or subleasing that makes it easier to leave campus quickly or at an irregular time when you move across the country. Or if you get matched in Cambridge and you decide to stay, extending it easily. So that is a thing that MIT helps with.
And there's a number of LGO houses. So where students hand over apartments to each other because we're all in the same kind of boat and the next year is coming in. And like the June start, like the next cohort starts in June, that's when an internship starts. So there's a lot of handover happening with students going on internship and new students coming in. So somehow it always works out really well, even though it's a bit chaotic. And housing is a challenging part in Cambridge.
Thank you. Thank you. We're getting so many questions. I forgot to actually do a deep dive with the alum of what you actually did do your internships, which I want to get to in a second. But we're also getting a lot of questions about international internships. Does anyone, any alum have any input, tips, discussion points about international internships?
International internships or internships for international students?
The question I'm reading right now, how common are international internships?
We have, go ahead, Mark.
Also, I think for our year we had two, right? It was AstraZeneca and SATA. So I don't think it's super common, but they are. And I know I'm good friends with, obviously good friends with both of them. And oh, we had AIP that had Switzerland too. I forgot. They love
and Striker. So we actually had four. We had Abe, Davey,
yeah.
Carlos, and Juan. Yeah, we had four. And they were England,
they had a great
Spain,
time.
Belgium. What was the fourth?
Ireland.
Ireland, that's right. Yeah. So.
But it's not that common. Most of them are domestic.
Okay, let me go through here. Hang on. I'm just trying to organize the questions. I want to make sure I get good ones for everybody. Wow, a lot of good questions. I love it. Great questions. So there's is it combined? One possible to have half and half? No, it's either one or the other. Do students have trips during the internship to visit other facilities from the company? Again, I like to have the alums. Yeah, I think, yeah, let me let you guys go. Let me take it. Theo, Reimer.
I think it's really common for the company to pay for you to visit facilities. For example, Nike wanted us to visit the distribution centers since we were stationed in headquarters and didn't get to see any of that day to day. So they paid for us to fly out and see those operations. This year they went to California, before it was Tennessee. But I think that's really common. And I know Raymar traveled a lot as well.
Yeah, I mean, my internship with a private equity company is kind of heavily travel focused, but I went to probably like 10 different factories in different locations, including Mexico, just as part of the work, and also sometimes just for fun, because it's interesting to see other factories. So I went to a lot of different ones, and there was like work travel, so it was covered by the company. There was usually a specific reason, you could name to go there.
Getting a lot of questions real quick on a bit of a tangent. A lot of questions about entrepreneurship and starting ventures. So LGO isn't optimized to start a venture right when you graduate the program. However, there are a number of resources here on campus that will help start a business in what we see with the alums few years down the road. But right out of the gate, right after graduation, we're really not optimized to start a venture. Having said that, though, so it's hard to starting a venture in the internships. We're not optimized to start a venture after the program. Let me just end it right there. So the internship is really a part of the program when you're here. Ted, do you have anything to add on that in terms of entrepreneurship and ventures, Patty?
Well, the internship is full-time, and it also has intellectual property agreements that you're in. So you need to, if you're doing something, it should not be related to what you're doing on your internship, because there's potential conflict of interest. And also it's a full-time role. Trying to start a company and do the internship program or the LGO program is a heavy lift. It has been done. We've had students that have won 100K competitions. I would say it's one every third year there somebody will be doing a startup. It's very rare, and it's a matter of how you focus your time. But it's not something you can have time during your internship. That has to be kind of put on hold or be done off hours because the internship is 100% responsibility. I don't know, Patty, if you want to add anything else. Reimer, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with all that's been said. The program is really intense and it's hard to start a company on the side. But both years that our class was on campus, LGOs and their new startups won kind of all the pitch competitions that were there, including the 100K in both years, the Climate Energy Prize, and so on. So it is possible, but it's not a lot of sleep. So yeah, but LGOs generally tend to not sleep that much, I think, because there's just so much going on.
Here's a question I'd like to put out to the alum as well. Are the internships focused more on the engineering/STEM side, or is it a mix of business management and STEM?
It's a mix, I would say. For me, it was a perfect mix. And like I don't know if it's exactly 50-50, but they're right, like all the intersection of for me, manufacturing, operations, and like finance and management. So kind of all these parts heavily involved and intertwined.
Yeah, I agree. I think it depends on the internship. Some are going to skew one more than the other. I think mine was pretty well mixed. So it was really nice because 6 months seems like a long time, but it goes by pretty quick. And I was at Boeing, it's a massive organization. So leveraging kind of like the business to kind of like figure it out, identify business cases, the gaps, and all this kind of stuff. But then leveraging the engineering side to kind of see how your skills and your interests align with what the company needs, so that you actually create value, but learn at the same time. So it kind of just depends on the project and your interests as well. But it's just there's a spectrum for sure.
Great. Another question I want to ask live real quick, which I like this question. Alumni. The question was, hang on, they wanted to know, love to hear your story, everybody's journey before LGO. What was your major in undergrad, where you went, what you pursued, where you were working, and how that all tied into LGO, and how it all got to where you are now. Theo, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I think I was kind of an unusual case. I was an early admit for Sloan. I was admitted while I was in undergrad at MIT. I did civil and environmental engineering at MIT in undergrad. And they were able to defer my enrollment for a couple of years. And 2 years in, I heard about the LGO program and decided to kind of tack that on as an add-in to my Sloan. So I always knew that I was coming back to MIT, and then I heard about LGO and all the perks that came with it, the 2 degrees, the fellowship, the community, the internship, all of that, and decided to add it on. In between, I was working in consulting, doing environmental consulting for a really small firm. I think that set me up nicely for LGO, kept me really on my toes, as consultants usually are. Was there any other part of the question that I missed?
No, that was great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Theo. Mark, do you want to jump in real quick?
Yeah, so before LGO, I was actually a structural engineer. So I actually already have a graduate degree from MIT with MEng. So I was dealing with buildings on the West Coast, seismic kind of stuff, but decided to go back to school because a lot of that work had to do with sustainability, upgrading buildings for operational energy. I wanted to understand the sustainability space a little bit more, which was the MBA kind of focus to kind of broaden and diversify my skill sets. And then I also kind of found out about LGO a little bit late and applied, decided to tack it on. Definitely no regrets. And I think it's done a really good job because it's pretty flexible about what you can pursue and what you can specialize in, and the opportunities are awesome. And yeah, I've definitely, like, my internship was sustainability focused. I'm currently in an internship right now, not LGO related, but I want to do something before Caterpillar that's also sustainability focused, mixture of sustainable analytics. So I think it's the program is done. I got what I needed out of the program, what I was looking for. So
Great.
I'm German, as you might have guessed. So I come from the like middle of nowhere countryside in Bavaria. I did mechanical engineering undergrad, and then I did a management undergrad. I then did a master's in, and that was kind of more on the computational side in my background back then. Then I kind of moved into manufacturing for my master's, and then worked for Siemens, so like large industrial technology company. And for them, I did kind of like in-house strategy consulting, so like moved around a lot and worked with different businesses. And I then started a PhD in manufacturing or manufacturing computation at MIT. And at the time I was applying to the PhD, I was like coming from more of a business background at that point. I wasn't sure if I'd get in, and I also was really interested in the MBA because my wife had done one at Sloan. So I was, already very excited to maybe do that too. And so I basically then tried to combine the two of them for a couple of years until I finally found LGO, which was for me the like perfect fit, and I was able to combine these two, the PhD in engineering and the MBA. And my internship was also a perfect fit in the end because my internship was with AIP, but my content was with one of their portfolio companies that had just acquired a small advanced manufacturing company, and what they were doing is basically what I'm doing in my PhD. And my 6 month was scaling up a startup. So it was really fun at first, really fun, and then combined all the different things I had probably ever done and I was interested in, because we'd move into new factories, buy a bunch of machines, think about the manufacturing process, hire people, set up management processes, think about the returns in the end of this whole thing. So yeah, was pretty nice. And we're kind of, in the end, you can always say is a coherent story from the beginning, but yeah, in the process, it's very messy.
Thank you. Thank you. Real quick, we have 5 minutes left. I want to be cognizant of everybody's calendars. If we did not get to your question, which by the way, love all the questions. I know that there are some we haven't been able to get to. Please email us at lgo@mit.edu and we will address all of your questions. One last thing I want to talk about real quick. I'm noticing a number of questions about the thesis. Alum, can you talk about the thesis and how it tied in the internship, the program, kind of the whole process of kind of finishing up your thesis work at the end and how the internship played into that? Mark, you want to start?
yeah, I think the focus of the thesis is kind of cool because at the internship, you're not just working a job, like you're actually doing applying some really cool, innovative things but in projects that will actually be useful and be used after you leave. And so the thesis itself is basically kind of formalizing that work that you did. And I would recommend actually starting writing your thesis while you're on internship. I did not, and I spent a lot of my spring semester wrapping it up and rushing, but I think it was a really cool application of school in a real world situation.
Thank you, Mark. Theo, Reimer, anything to share in terms of thesis?
Yeah, I was more ambitious in the beginning of starting to write my thesis as I was on internship, and I started in the beginning, but then there's just so much going on that I kind of paused it, and ideally I would have also written more during the internship, but I think it was a nice way, like it kind of forced me, like as I was on the internship, to like get more more innovative, as it might have been the case otherwise if I was just doing the internship without having to write a thesis in the end, basically. So I was thinking more about, okay, how could this be applied to the like broader industry, or how could I use things from different like scientific fields and apply it in this area, which might be newer. And I definitely read more scientific literature just because I knew I had to write something scientific in the end afterwards, and that made my internship better and also improved my standing in the company because I wasn't just doing like what everyone else would expect me to do, but something like cooler, which worked out well for me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dominic, I just wanted to jump in on a quick question that was asked about several partner companies in AeroAstro. The projects are not reserved. We go out and we try and source the closed market that Patty made, but the companies, those projects can be open to mechanical, civil, electrical. So it's a mix, but they are not sorted before. So it'll be clear to you what projects are available when you're signing up to interview.
Thanks, Ted.
And Theo, you can let's not let Theo off the hook. She did complete a full draft of her thesis while on internship, and she also did win the best thesis award for her class. So props to Theo.
Thanks, Ted. Yeah, I was a little bit more on top of it while I was at Nike. They gave me the good graces of giving me time to document everything that I did, which I think is a really good idea. Just keeping like a really meticulous log of everything that you're doing that translates really well into a thesis. And that led to a good thesis that went through a lot of editing, and now it's kind of immortalized, I think. And it was a nice thing to have to share with my community so they could see what I did, right? My parents were really excited to read it, wondering what I had been doing for the last 2 years. So it's kind of a cool thing that lives forever.
Thank you. Thank you much. We're at time. I know we didn't get to all the questions, but please do email us at lgo@mit.edu and we'll happily get to all of your remaining questions. Thank you to the staff who helped out today. Thank you to the alum who helped out today as well. I know that some of the alum put their emails in the chat. They're more than happy to exchange and talk with you as well. But again, any questions, keep in touch. Email us, call us. We're here to help. Thank you much. We really appreciate your participation. Have a wonderful rest of your summer. And if you have any questions, please let us know. We are here. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.